Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins with the titular character Max Payne drowning in the Hudson River before sinking to the bottom with everybody else. He narrates that he doesn't believe in heaven, only death, and that it's a mistake for the rest of the dead to be waiting for him. A week earlier, NYPD officer Max was working as a clerk in cold cases where he's dedicated to finding the person who killed his wife Michelle and their baby daughter. At night he goes looking for new leads, and after tracking down a low-level burglar from the area, Max beats the crap out of his friend and sends the other one running scared down the subway tracks. The man doesn't get far when a mysterious winged creature attacks him and the next passing train finishes him off. Max is told by the scared criminal to visit his snitch Trevor, who runs a club filled with wing-adorned patrons including the crime lord Lupino and the free-spirited Natasha. She comes on to Max while her protective sister Mona attempts to drag her away, but learning that he's a police officer, she figures what's the worst that could happen. They go back to Max's place where Natasha jumps into bed, but when she offers to roleplay as Max's deceased wife, he demands that she leave. Acting like it's the first time that she's ever been turned down, Natasha walks home and gets stalked by Lupino from the rooftop when the winged creatures suddenly show up. They chase her down an alleyway, but being unable to escape, she gets attacked like the man in the subway before being killed off screen. The next day Max gets taken by his former partner Alex to the crime scene to break the news of the murder while Lupino's shown still hanging around. Alex reveals that Max is the prime suspect since he was the last to be seen with Natasha and he wants to help him, but Max is still bitter that Alex is one of the detectives who couldn't solve his wife's murder. Later that night though, Alex notices that Natasha's tattoo was similar to that of a henchman that Max killed at his wife's murder scene the night Michelle's killer got away. He leaves a message for Max to come around, but by the time he gets to Alex's apartment it's already been ransacked and Max is attacked but doesn't see who by. After a thrashing, Max gets off 6 shots before passing out and waking up in a hospital beside the former cop and ex-partner of Max's father Hensley. Whoever attacked him survived all of the shots that he fired unharmed and escaped the area, but Alex was found dead in his home. Hensley's now employed as head of security for Acer Pharmaceuticals, where the current president Nicole greets Max fondly as Michelle was a top employee of the company. We also briefly meet Nicole's executive sidekick Jason, who learned about Natasha's murder from the papers and always seems on edge about it. After they get cleaned up for the wake and meet Hensley's partner Joe, the two go to Alex's house to offer their condolences, but they're forced to leave by his widow. She says that Alex was haunted and couldn't sleep because Max always made him feel guilty for not finding the man who murdered his wife. Outside, Max gets picked up by Internal Affairs Lieutenant Bravura, who finally brings him in for questioning since he's the prime suspect around all of the murders. Since he was also found nearly dead, he's allowed to leave, but Max returns to the precinct and walks straight through the bewildered crowd to break into Alex's office. Before the other detectives can gain entry, he searches through his partner's files to learn about the last person that Natasha called before she died. He escapes through a window but gets caught outside by Mona, who believes he killed her sister and wants revenge by beating him around with a billy club. She's eventually convinced that Max wasn't responsible and accompanies him to a 20-story crack house to speak with the last person that Natasha called. Her dealer is currently tweaking hard and steps backwards out of the window, but is shown to the viewer as being forcefully dragged out by one of the winged creatures. Having also had the same wing tattoos that Natasha had, Max and Mona go to see the man who did them to learn that they're the wings of a Valkyrie. They get superstitiously used for protection, and when asked what against, the scene shifts to Lupino, who's become increasingly more unstable due to his addiction to a chemical called Valkyr. He gives some to another wing tattooed junkie, making him instantly stronger, but then decides to kill him when he begins to act desperate for more. Elsewhere in the city, Mona gets dropped off to meet with the Haitian crime boss Lincoln and learns about the wing tattoos and Max's painful past. He says Lupino's building an army and that Mona should stay away from Max for her own safety, as he's been hunting someone for 3 years that God doesn't want to be found. Meanwhile, Max looks over some old work papers that belong to his wife and learns that the wing company logo matches the wing tattoos. He tells Hensley he suspects the company may be responsible for her death and returns to his old family house for a flashback of the day Michelle was killed. Max shot 2 of the intruders dead but was only about 10 minutes late to save his wife and daughter as their killer escaped through the window. Bravura is told the same story from Hensley, who says that the idea of a company member being involved in her murder is just delusional nonsense. He implores the detective that Max be brought in for his own safety, but Bravura goes to Acer Pharma to find out information about Michelle. Outside the building, Jason warns Nicole about Lupino's crime spree, but she doesn't seem to care that her experiment's out on the street. The executive's then cornered in his office by Max, who he thinks is there for a civil discussion about his wife, but receives a brutal beating until he tells the truth. He reveals that Michelle was working on a super soldier serum for the military, but it only worked on 1% of the test subjects while the rest suffered life-ending hallucinations. Jason's got an envelope with all of his evidence but says that the man who killed Max's wife's going to try to kill them, so they attempt to leave quickly. Police arrive, but one of them purposely shoots Jason dead to prevent him from talking and forcing Max to fight his way out of the building. He manages to escape with the envelope but has a brief run-in with Bravura, who heard the gunshots from downstairs and flanked him. Before Max can explain anything, SWAT suddenly blows a hole through the door between them, allowing Max to get away, as apparently there aren't any more police downstairs. Mona later finds Max watching a video from the envelope and learns that Lupino was a former sergeant who volunteered for the Valkyrie experiments. It enhanced the soldier's ability in combat and replaced his fear with complete peace, giving him the feeling of total invincibility, like he can fly. Convinced that Lupino's the one who killed his wife and learning of his secret hideout from Mona, who refuses to go with him out of fear, Max prepares, as he doesn't plan on returning alive, and goes to the location, guns blazing and killing all of the henchmen along the way. He eventually finds an empty office at the end as Lupino's on the roof drinking the serum and letting out a demonic roar as he readies for a fight. He drops down and attacks Max, who blocks his swings of a machete with his shotgun, but Lupino exhibits enhanced strength, easily pinning a defeated Max to the floor. Before he can land the finishing blow, he's shot dead by Hensley, who retrieves the confused Max, who questions why Lupino didn't even recognize him. He suddenly gets knocked unconscious by Joe, as it was really Hensley who led the manufacturer of Valkyrie and is the runaway killer that Max has been searching for. He admits to killing Michelle when she threatened to expose their experiments, but Lupino was just having his own side story with some stolen crates of the chemical. Hensley attempts to eliminate Max by making it look like he was strung out with 2 full vials of Valkyrie in his pocket, instead of just letting Lupino do it 10 minutes earlier. Like always, Max manages to fight free and escape into the icy cold water, where the partners leave, assuming that he's just going to freeze to death anyway. Sinking to the bottom like in the opening scene, Max has a dream of Michelle saying that it's not yet his time, causing him to quickly resurface. He barely makes it out alive, and in order to combat lethal hypothermia, he ingests the Valkyrie, hoping that he falls into the 1% that doesn't go insane. He immediately recovers from his wounds as he hallucinates the snow turning to embers and the sky filled with the demonic winged Valkyries. Agent Bravura calls in the FBI on the overly suspicious behavior of Hensley, so the head of security assembles his team to kill them all and keep it quiet. They run into Max Payne waiting in the parking lot, who, empowered by the serum, chases them straight back inside Acer headquarters. He eliminates most of the security team on his way through and gets shot in the process, but just shrugs it off and keeps chasing after his target. He starts having distracting hallucinations of the Valkyries again, followed by intense pain as the creatures tear off the roof, revealing an inferno above. One of the security teams attempts to shoot Max but is killed by Mona, who offers to hold off the rest of Hensley's men while he goes after their boss. She finds his partner trying to blow up the building, but when he draws on her, Mona shoots him first before taking cover from the rest of the team in an elevator. Max gets distracted once again when he reaches his target's office and finds a flock of demonic Valkyries banging on the window. FBI surround the building as Hensley's still living partner manages to roll over and activate the explosive, destroying multiple floors and sending rubble onto the police below. It breaks Max out of his trance, and he's able to confront Hensley on the rooftop, who's waiting on a helicopter that isn't going to come as he's been abandoned by Nicole. Hensley shoots Max twice before his gun jams, but Max just walks it off and shoots Hensley through the heart, killing him. The victorious Max then kneels down at the edge of the building as the sun begins to rise, and he has another vision of his wife and their baby. He continues narrating that he still doesn't believe heaven exists, but believes that angels do, referring to Michelle and their daughter. Max is told that he's not ready yet again and snaps out of it just as an FBI SWAT team shows up to arrest him. In a post-credits scene, Max goes to a bar to meet up with Mona and to learn that Nicole's still living large as Acer Pharma's CEO. The two look at each other without saying anything, as they both know who Max's next target's going to be. And the movie ends.